think these talking points, her attitude is because they don't want to take accountability, because they know networks like CNN are the ones saying all this stuff, the fascists, the dog whistle, the rallying the troops, so to speak, that do stuff like this. So is she saying it because she's getting orders from the top to say this? Because she can't admit.
Charlie Kirk's widow isn't just mourning. She's fighting back. And what's coming will shake Hollywood and corporate America to its core. With a legal onslaught that's already racking up as many headlines as billable hours, Kirk's family isn't content to light a few candles or post some thoughtful threads on social media. No, they're aiming at the very heart of the media machine that turned Kirk's final moments into a punchline and, in the eyes of millions, made a martyr into a meme. We're watching a wave of multi-million-dollar lawsuits crash into the likes of TMZ, ABC, and every suit and sneer presenter who thought Kirk's tragedy was just another night at the ratings circus. If there was ever a moment that proved money talks and revenge is fluent in legalese, this is it.
The fallout from Charlie Kirk's has spread to the workplace. People are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children.
Not just the emotional cost, though that's high enough. For the Kirk family, the humiliation didn't end when the camera switched off. We all saw it, the snickering on air, the studio laughter, the forced apologies after the damage had already gone viral. Every lawyer filing these suits knows exactly what's at stake, the public's right to the truth, yes, but also the reputations of companies and individuals who bet their futures on Kirk being fair game. In boardrooms from Manhattan to Burbank, the phrase publicly humiliated isn't just a legal term, it's a torpedo aimed straight at the bottom line. Nobody wants to be the next executive left holding the bag when the courts and public opinion both come collecting. We're not talking about a slap on the wrist either. This is about stripping careers down to the studs and sending a message that hypocrisy on live television has consequences.
You have to make this good. I'm one that actually watched some of the stuff that you've done over the years, and it's actually good.
I agree.
For you to defend and lie about what they reacted to, you lost so much credibility with me. So much credibility with me for you to behave that way.
The stakes couldn't be higher. These lawsuits aren't just about clearing Kirk's name. They're about holding the biggest names in the media accountable for their hypocrisy. We watched as pundits, presenters, and corporate spokespeople performed Olympic-level mental gymnastics, spinning Kirk's assassination into jokes, or worse, into excuses for their own bad behavior. Each time they sneered, each time a joke fell flat or a crowd laughed when it should have gasped, it was another brick in the legal case that's now barreling toward them like a runaway freight train. It's almost poetic. The very companies that spent years policing offensive speech and touting their corporate values now stand accused of the same sins, only with much deeper pockets and a global audience watching their every stumble.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points.
While the Kirk family's campaign is grabbing every tabloid headline and trending hashtag, there's one name looming over this mess like a storm cloud: Jimmy Kimmel. The late-night host finds himself at the molten core of the scandal, and his bosses at Disney are apparently sweating through their trademarked gloves. Rumor has it, according to 3 sources with deep ties to Burbank, that Disney has quietly funneled millions of dollars into a so-called legal war chest designed to protect Kimmel and, if necessary, themselves. We're not talking chump change or a few late-night drinks with lawyers. This is a full-blown bunker mentality, the kind of contingency planning you'd expect from a company that's terrified its own secrets might spill out alongside Kimmel's defense.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is.
And that, of course, raises the billion-dollar question. What is Disney so afraid of? Are they really standing by Kimmel out of loyalty, or is this about shielding the House of Mouse from being dragged into the ugly center ring? According to whispers from current and former ABC insiders, the answer isn't as wholesome as the Disney brand would like you to believe. Some say it's not just about what Kimmel said, but what Disney executives did or didn't do in the hours after Kirk's assassination. The silence from Bob Iger and the executive team has only poured gasoline on the speculation. If there's one thing Disney hates, it's a scandal that threatens their family-friendly facade. And yet, here we are, watching the company that gave us fairy tales now scrambling to manage the nightmare of late-night politics gone nuclear.
Honestly, I mean, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that. But the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said.
And Kimmel himself? He's not exactly giving off confident in my future vibes. The latest rumor, coming from a former showrunner who still keeps an eye on the guest list, is that Kimmel's already mapped out a secret exit strategy. His contract's winding down, his show is on indefinite hiatus, and even some of his closest allies inside Disney are hedging their bets. Some claim Kimmel's privately talking about leaving Hollywood for good, packing up his punchlines and heading somewhere he can't be subpoenaed quite so easily. If true, it's a move that says more than any monologue ever could. Even the kings of late night know the ground beneath them is shifting, and one wrong move could send them tumbling into the same professional void as so many fallen icons before them. Still, none of this exists in a vacuum. As the lawsuits start to multiply and the legal drama unfolds, it's becoming obvious that this is more than just a family versus media slugfest. It's a cultural flashpoint. Each new filing, each viral apology or corporate statement is another signal flare in a much bigger battle over what counts as acceptable in American public life. When the Kirk lawsuits threaten to shut down companies or end the careers of some of the most visible names in late-night TV, we all have to wonder, is this the beginning of the end for the current media order? Are we watching the collapse of late-night TV as we know it, or the opening shots in a much broader war for the soul of the American conversation?
To do it, because I think there's an irony here. My take on this, there's an irony. Harvey has made his career on busting celebrities that lie when they're arrested, and then this video, that video, this person, that person, and then they bust them. They go, no.
Great point.
Here's what really happened.
That's right.
And now Harvey's in the middle of it, right there, busted, and sitting there in front of the spotlight, the same way he puts celebrities and other people in front of the spotlight.
But for now, every eye is on those legal documents, and every ear is pressed against the wall, waiting for the next leak, the next lawsuit, the next desperate maneuver from a cornered executive or a suddenly humble television personality. The only certainty, this story isn't shrinking. If anything, the storm is only just gathering strength. As Disney scrambles to protect its golden boy Jimmy Kimmel, the cracks in its reputation are becoming impossible to ignore. Here's a company that's built its entire mythology on wholesome values, fairy tale endings, and a carefully polished, family-friendly glow, and yet suddenly it finds itself hip-deep in a swamp of late-night outrage and lawsuits that no amount of animated nostalgia can fix. While the Kirk lawsuits rattle through the courts, Disney's silence is starting to look less like strategic patience and more like the panicked hush of executives trapped in their own hypocrisy. After all, how does a company that drops its theme park flags to half-mast for a slain conservative leader keep defending a man accused of mocking that very tragedy on national television? Internally, we're told there's a level of corporate anxiety not seen since the early streaming wars. Senior staff glued to every news update, desperate legal teams rewriting statements late into the night, and even a few high-level emergency meetings where more than one exec has reportedly asked, what if this time we really can't just let it blow over?
They don't need a reason to fire you if you're an at-will employee, which most workers in the US are at-will contracts. So they can fire you because you wore green instead of blue one day. It doesn't matter. Really, what the leader's job at these private employers is to identify the workers who are aligned with the culture that they're trying to cultivate, the strategy that they have to achieve their results towards their...
The panic is leaking out into the open. For the first time in years, the usual iron curtain between Disney's boardroom and the wider world is showing holes. Employees, particularly those not high enough to have their own NDA, are grumbling about the unwritten rule to stay off social media, while public relations specialists are pitching nonstop spin to anyone who listen. If you believe whispers from the media trenches, some of the same execs who happily greenlit edgy late-night segments are now muttering that Kimmel's on-air tone has become a liability. The phrase optics disaster is suddenly the corporate prayer. And it's not just nervousness for Kimmel. The fear is existential. Every new revelation risks painting Disney not as an innocent bystander, but as a quiet co-conspirator, a billion-dollar giant so obsessed with its image that it's willing to look the other way, until the lawsuits start arriving by the dozen.
Conservative activists, Republican lawmakers, and even a doxing website are flagging the comments in what critics say is a campaign to punish those.
But while lawyers burn through enough midnight oil to power Epcot, the real heat is coming from the outside. Kirk supporters, already fired up by what they call a coordinated smear campaign against his legacy, have unleashed a tidal wave of viral backlash. Boycotts are trending, hashtags multiplied by the hour, and the counter lawsuits are hitting anyone who ever held a microphone the wrong way during those chaotic first days. If you're keeping score, it's not just Kimmel or ABC in the crosshairs. Whole networks, advertising partners, and even late-night sacred cows are suddenly feeling the chill. The fury isn't limited to Kirk supporters. Even viewers who never bought into his politics are starting to question just how much latitude the media should have when it comes to crossing the line between commentary and cruelty. As one user snapped online, people like Jimmy Kimmel must have their careers completely destroyed. That sentiment is spreading, and so is the collateral damage. Employees at news outlets, sports teams, even airlines are losing jobs or facing disciplinary action for the wrong joke or careless post. When even TMZ has to issue a groveling apology for staff laughter caught on a live stream, you know the outrage economy is operating at full tilt.
Somebody, an ex-employee claims, these are claims all over that I saw on X, that the newsroom was filled with hateful, angry, progressive energy, and he said it would, without question, laugh at Charlie Kirk getting shot. Shame on them. Shame on them.
Meanwhile, the rest of late-night television isn't exactly covering itself in glory. A few hosts offered cautious on-air support for Kimmel, but it's clear that alliances in this industry are as fragile as the ratings for an election year special. Jon Stewart tried to sidestep the minefield with a sarcastic swerve, joking about government-approved comedy and dropping hints that the real show might be what's happening off-camera. Jimmy Fallon played it safe, calling Kimmel a decent, funny, and loving guy while dodging the meat of the controversy. If we sound skeptical, it's because the industry's collective body language says it all. Everyone's waiting for the next shoe to drop, wondering if this wave of public anger is the one that finally sweeps late night's biggest egos right off their thrones.
So they're watching the car chase.
So, yeah.
The announcer announces Charlie Kirk's, and it seems like in all likelihood that's when they cheer.
You tell me
There's
what
nothing excitable
while
going
that
on there.
second the car
This
chase.
isn't O.J. Simpson and the White
Exactly.
Bronco.
Exactly.
Pat, that, I'm sorry, that, the first of all, disgusting of who they are, what TM...
This is no longer just about one family's pursuit of justice. It's about an America already split down the middle, now using the Kirk case as its newest lightning rod. We're seeing conservative groups launch media accountability drives, threatening ad dollars, organizing mass boycotts, and fueling a digital insurgency that makes last year's streaming wars look tame. Late-night television, once the safest playground for political comedy, is suddenly the new front line in a battle between two Americas, one that sees itself as under siege from a biased elite, and another scrambling to rewrite the script before the audience turns on them for good. In the end, every producer, presenter, and executive has to answer the same uncomfortable question. If Kirk's family can bring the full force of the law against those who laughed at their pain, who's really safe when the culture war comes knocking at your studio door? Of course, if all this was just about lawsuits, that would be dramatic enough. But the most radioactive rumors suggest we've barely scratched the surface. Behind the headlines, there's growing talk that Kirk's lawsuits could force a legal discovery process with the power to unearth Hollywood secrets long kept in the vault. The biggest whisper making the rounds? That Kimmel's alleged connections to the Jeffrey Epstein orbit, long dismissed as a nothing burger by his camp, might finally get dragged out for public inspection. Sure, the official records say Kimmel's not on any list, but social media sleuths aren't letting go. Clips of Kimmel palling around with Epstein's personal chef have resurfaced, fueling speculation about who knew what, when, and who might be sweating a subpoena if court proceedings dig deep enough. A former Disney publicist claims there are files that could blow the doors off what people think they know about late night's favorite sons, files the company is desperate to keep locked away.
This is Harvey, who runs TMZ. It's a place known, I've been inside that place. It's a place that's known for having cameras everywhere. That's what you're known for. You're talking live all the time, right? That's what TMZ is known for. You have cameras everywhere. That's your business model. That's how you blew up.
I was with you in every corner of every room. They capture
That's
every
right.
reaction.
You remember that.
If those connections become courtroom ammunition, it won't just be embarrassing, it could turn the entire entertainment industry inside out. Imagine what happens if one lawsuit opens the door to evidence of hush money deals, backroom settlements, or even, as one former Kimmel staffer insists, ND as stacked up like Disney World churros. The idea that the Kirk lawsuits could start pulling threads that unravel a much larger Hollywood tapestry is now a very real fear, not just for Kimmel and Disney, but for anyone whose secrets are buried in the same deep vault. Every agent, every lawyer, every assistant with a phone full of contacts is suddenly much less sure about where their loyalties should lie.
You know, TMZ comes out and everybody around the world finds out when the phone alert, Charlie Kirk is right? Your phone is blowing up. No matter where you are, your phone is blowing up with text messages saying Charlie Kirk is.
For years, late-night comedy has thrived on the friction between politics and entertainment, making household names out of hosts who built careers skewering public figures and stoking the parties in flames. But now, with the Kirk lawsuits landing like a meteor in the studio parking lot, the old rules seem to be collapsing. Network lawyers, once content to clean up the occasional slip, are facing down the prospect that every punchline could become a legal liability. Writers' rooms that once buzzed with irreverent riffs are suddenly tiptoeing around the boundaries, afraid that a sharp joke could trigger the next headline-making lawsuit or drag the show into a protracted legal battle. It's not just about who gets mocked, it's about whether late night as we know it can survive in a world where every comedic misstep risks a subpoena.
And I think Obama's lying about saying, oh, I really didn't know him. You know exactly who the hell.
This reckoning isn't just a Hollywood problem. It's rippling out to every corner of the media universe that's ever played with fire. Streaming giants, podcast networks, and upstart creators are watching the Kirk lawsuits with a new sense of dread, realizing the very format that made political comedy a cultural juggernaut could now be its undoing. Editorial meetings that once revolved around pushing the envelope have devolved into crisis management briefings, with legal advisors now shaping the contours of acceptable humor. Even the biggest names, who once wore lawsuits as a badge of honor, are privately reconsidering whether another viral segment is worth the cost if it means becoming the next cautionary tale. If these lawsuits succeed, they might not just topple a few old guard hosts. They could silence an entire generation of comedic risk takers. The wider cultural impact could be seismic. Political humor has long served as a safety valve, a way for the public to process frustration and absurdity through satire and parody. If that outlet disappears or is forced to abandon its edge, the entire media landscape could shift towards something far more sanitized. Late-night shows might begin resembling their 1950s predecessors, toothless, predictable, and devoid of controversy, with monologues full of weather jokes and interviews scrubbed of any dangerous subtext. The social function of comedy, once a bulwark against power and hypocrisy, risks being reduced to filler between commercial breaks. For audiences who grew up expecting their comedians to say the unsayable, this new landscape could feel like a cultural lobotomy.
So for someone, and look at just the blatant lie, like he's like, I didn't know him well, but he just went through a list of 5 things in order, in depth, about what he said and what he feels and his points of view. So I don't buy none of that. They know exactly who the hell Charlie Kirk was because his voice was...
At the same time, there's a growing fear that forcing late night and political humor to play it safe could actually backfire, driving satire into the underground or fueling even more toxic forms of internet-driven outrage. Already, smaller platforms and independent creators are promising to say what no one else will, positioning themselves as the last rebels in a media environment gone bland. The risk is that rather than fostering civility, this new era could fracture the public conversation even further, splintering audiences into echo chambers where outrage becomes the only currency. The lawsuits might change the tone on network TV, but they could also open the floodgates to a new era of digital guerrilla comedy answerable to no one but the algorithms and the angriest voices online. If there's any hope for balance, it might lie in the possibility that this legal and cultural earthquake could force the industry to rethink its relationship to both politics and humor. Maybe we'll see new formats emerge that find smarter, more honest ways to tackle the big issues without resorting to cheap shots or easy applause. Maybe the next generation of hosts will have to rebuild trust, not just with their audiences, but with the very institutions that once protected them. Or maybe, as some quietly fear, this is the final act for an entire genre, leaving behind only memories of when comedy could truly bite and when every punchline felt like a risk worth taking.
Obama got paraded out at the end of the election and it didn't do any good. And guess what? Obama is getting paraded out now. It's like the bat signal. It's like, we got to get Obama. Let's go get him. And so they're reaching out to get him.
And don't forget, these lawsuits might be the last stand for political humor as we know it. Industry analysts are quietly floating the possibility that if this legal barrage actually shuts down shows or leaves a few heads rolling, the era of anything goes comedy could be coming to a messy, lawsuit-filled end. Would late-night television really survive if it's forced to play everything straight, neutered of the political bite that defined a generation? Or is this just the natural end to a genre that pushed its luck one controversy too far? Are these lawsuits the beginning of the end for politically charged comedy, we have to ask? If so, what rises in its place? An age of bland jokes, safe scripts, and sanitized applause? Or something even stranger? One thing is certain, when the dust settles, Hollywood may never look the same. So, what do you think, viewers? Will this lawsuit storm finally force real change, or is this just another scandal destined to fade into the next news cycle? Drop your hottest takes below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want the real dirt every time. Until next time, keep your secrets safe, your popcorn ready, and your eyes on the circus.